Picture a version of your life where you did everything right. You worked, you paid your bills on time. Every year, without fail, you put money into your TFSA. Not once did you skip a year. You were the person in your friend group who actually had their finances together. When people asked what to do with their money, they came to you. Now picture this. You are 64 years old. You are 1 year from retirement. You sit down to look at your TFSA, the account you have been building for 20 years, and you realize it holds $220,000. Not $220,000 in addition to other savings. Just $220,000 total.
You do the math. At 4% withdrawal, that is $8,800 per year to supplement your CPP and OAS. That is $733 a month. That is not retirement. That is survival. And the worst part, it is not because you were careless. You did everything you were supposed to do. You saved every year. You never missed a contribution. You followed the plan your bank gave you. The plan was wrong. And nobody told you. Today, I am going to show you the exact math behind that gap. Why $220,000 should have been $600,000, where the missing $400,000 went, and the 3 moves that take less than 1 afternoon to execute. But first, I need to tell you about my dad. He opened his TFSA in 2011. He maxed it every single year. He was genuinely proud of that, and he should have been, because most Canadians never come close to maxing their TFSA. He did, every year, without fail. When he opened the account, the bank set it up as a GIC, Guaranteed Investment Certificate. Safe, stable, government insured, returning about 2.1% per year on average across the years he held it. By 2017, 6 years in, his TFSA had about $42,000. He felt okay about that. He showed me the statement with a kind of quiet satisfaction. He had done the responsible thing. I ran the math at the kitchen table while he watched. 6 years of the same contributions, same annual room, but invested in a broad market ETF at 8% average annual return. The number should have been $67,000. He had $42,000. The gap was $25,000. In 6 years. From one decision about which box inside the TFSA the money went into, a decision nobody explained to him when he opened the account. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Why did no one tell me this?" I did not have a clean answer. That question is why this video exists. Let me show you exactly where $400,000 comes from. Not as a round number designed to scare you, as a specific calculation based on real Canadian TFSA data. The TFSA was introduced in Canada in January 2009. If you turned 18 in 2009 or earlier, your cumulative contribution room right now in 2026 is $109,000. That is the total lifetime amount the government allows you to put into this account and shelter from all taxes permanently. Every dollar of growth inside the TFSA, capital gains, dividends, interest, whatever form it takes, is completely tax-free. When you withdraw, you pay nothing. Not income tax, not capital gains tax, nothing. The government built you a vault, handed you the key, and said, whatever grows in here is yours to keep. That is genuinely one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to any Canadian. More powerful than an RRSP in many scenarios, because withdrawals are tax-free rather than tax-deferred. More flexible than a pension, because you control the investments. More valuable than a savings account by a factor that I am about to show you. Here is what most Canadians actually did with that tool. They walked into their bank branch, they said they wanted to open a TFSA. The bank opened a TFSA high-interest savings account, or a TFSA GIC. The account had the TFSA label on it, the tax shelter was real, the paperwork was correct. But the return was 1.8 to 2.5% per year. In a world where inflation runs between 2.5 and 3.5%, which means in real terms, adjusted for what your money can actually buy, a TFSA savings account has been losing purchasing power every single year it has existed. You were not building wealth. You were storing money that was quietly worth less each year than the year before. And the statement showed a number going up, so nothing felt wrong. Let me run the direct comparison. You are 25 years old in 2026. You contribute $7,500 per year, the full annual TFSA room. You do this for 30 years, without interruption, until you are 55. Scenario A, your bank's default. TFSA savings account, or GIC, averaging 2% annually. After 30 years, you have contributed $225,000. Your balance? Approximately $305,000. Scenario B, broad market ETF, averaging 8% annually. Same contributions, same timeline. After 30 years, you have contributed $225,000. Your balance? Approximately $925,000. The gap is $620,000. From the same money, from the same account, from the same person, from a single decision about what goes inside the container. Now, I said $400,000 in the title, not $620,000. Here is why. Most Canadians do not start at 25, and most do not max every year. The realistic scenario: you start at 30, you contribute $500 a month, roughly $6,000 per year, not the full room, and you run for 35 years to age 65. At 2%, approximately $345,000. At 8%, approximately $1,095,000. Gap in the realistic scenario? $750,000. $400,000 is the conservative number for someone contributing only their annual room. $7,500 per year, starting at 25, for 20 years. Not 35, not 40. Just 20 years of the minimum responsible contribution. At 2%, 20 years, $222,000. At 8%, 20 years, $373,000. Gap, $151,000 at 20 years. The $400,000 number arrives at 30 years. Every year you wait compounds the gap. Every year you stay in a savings account widens it. The number does not stop at $400,000. It keeps growing. Now, let me introduce you to 3 Canadians who are living this math right now. Person A is 31 years old. She opened her TFSA 5 years ago at 26. She contributed consistently every year. Not the full room, but a meaningful $400 a month. Her bank set it up as a high-interest savings account. Her balance today is $18,000. At 8% market returns with identical contributions, her balance should be $31,000. She is already $13,000 behind at age 31. And because of compounding, that $13,000 gap does not stay at $13,000. It grows faster than her contributions going forward. By the time she is 55, that early gap, if never corrected, represents over $80,000 in lost wealth. Person B is 28 years old. He has never opened a TFSA. Not because he is irresponsible or financially unaware, because he has been telling himself for 3 years that he will open it when he has more money, when things settle down, when the timing is right. The timing is never right. And every year he waits costs him that year's contribution room, $7,500 in 2026, which he can never get back. Contribution room does not roll forward when the account does not exist. It accumulates, yes, but the compounding years inside the account are gone. At 8%, $7,500 contributed at age 25 is worth approximately $79,000 at age 65. Every year of delay costs him roughly that. Person C is 45 years old. She has had a TFSA for 15 years. She maxed it in most of those years. She was doing exactly what her bank recommended. GICs, rotating terms, guaranteed returns averaging 2.1% over the period. Her balance today? $67,000. 15 years of maximum contributions at market returns would have produced approximately $220,000. Her gap at 45? $153,000. She has 20 years left before retirement. At 8% on $67,000 with continued contributions, she can still end with over $500,000. But she will never recover the $153,000 she lost in the early years. That gap is permanent. These are not hypothetical. Statistics Canada data from 2024 shows the average Canadian TFSA holder has approximately $41,000 in their account. Based on contribution history and average annual room since 2009, that number should be closer to $95,000 if invested at market returns. The national gap is not $400,000 per person. It is close to $54,000 per holder on average. Across 16 million TFSA account holders, that is $864 billion in wealth that Canadians left in savings accounts instead of building in the market. Pause this video. Open your TFSA right now. Look at what it is invested in. If you see the words savings or GIC anywhere on that screen, keep watching. This video is specifically about you. So how did this happen? How did millions of Canadians do exactly what they were told and end up with a fraction of what they should have? The answer is not incompetence. It is not laziness. It is a structural information gap that the banking system has zero financial incentive to close. A TFSA is a container. The container is tax-free, but what you put inside the container determines your return. A TFSA can hold savings accounts, GICs, bonds, individual stocks, mutual funds, or ETFs. The account type determines your tax treatment. What you put inside determines your actual wealth outcome. When you walk into a bank branch and say you want to open a TFSA, the default output is a TFSA savings account. That is the product the bank has already set up for this conversation. It requires no licensing discussion, no investment suitability assessment, no conversation about your time horizon, risk tolerance, or retirement goals. The teller clicks 3 buttons and hands you a TFSA savings account. The conversation takes 4 minutes. The conversation you actually needed, where someone explains the difference between the account type and the investment held inside it, costs the bank a product sale. GICs generate fee revenue. TFSA savings accounts generate spread revenue. ETFs bought through Wealthsimple or Questrade generate nothing for the bank. So that conversation does not happen. Your bank didn't teach you the difference between a TFSA account and TFSA investments. That confusion is worth $400,000 to them. The government gave you the most powerful tax tool in Canadian history. Your bank turned it into a savings account and charged you for the privilege. Now, I want to address GICs specifically, because the picture is more nuanced than simply saying GICs are bad. GICs are not universally wrong. They are wrong for most Canadians in the specific context of a TFSA during their primary wealth-building years. Here is why. A GIC at a major Canadian bank in 2026 returns between 3.5 and 4.2% on a 5-year term. That is better than a savings account. But a GIC is locked. You cannot access the money without penalty before the term ends. And it earns a fixed rate that does not participate in market growth. The TFSA is your longest duration, highest flexibility, most tax-advantaged account. It has the most time to compound of any account you own. It accepts withdrawals without penalty and restores the room in the following calendar year. It is the account most structurally suited to long-duration market investing. Putting a locked 3-year GIC into a TFSA at age 30 is taking your best long-duration account and filling it with a short-duration, fixed-return, illiquid product. You have optimized the container and ignored what goes inside it. GICs belong in RRSP accounts as you approach retirement and need capital protection within 5 to 10 years. They belong in non-registered accounts for short-term goals. They do not belong in a TFSA at 28 or 35 or 42 unless you specifically need that money in 3 years and cannot tolerate any fluctuation at all. The other argument I hear constantly is that the market is too risky. People point to 2008, to the COVID crash in 2020, to inflation in 2022 and 2023. They say they do not want to lose money. Here is what those events actually looked like from inside a long-duration TFSA. In March 2020, the market dropped 34% in 23 days. It was the fastest crash in market history. If you had $50,000 in XEQT on March 1, 2020, you had approximately $33,000 on March 23, 2020. That is genuinely alarming to see on a statement. By August 2020, 5 months later, you were back to $50,000. By the end of 2020, you were at $61,000. By end of 2021, you were at $74,000. The volatility was real. The damage was not permanent. Over any rolling 15-year period in Canadian market history, broad market index investing has not produced a negative return. The risk of a 30-year TFSA invested in a global index ETF producing less than a 2% GIC is not a realistic concern. The risk of a GIC producing less than inflation over 30 years is not a concern. It is a near certainty. Guaranteed mediocrity is not safety. It is just slower, quieter damage, with the number going up on the statement, so you never see it happening.
The management expense ratio on XEQT is 0.20% per year. On $100,000, that is $200 annually. In exchange for holding approximately 9,000 global stocks, automatic rebalancing, and institutional execution. The typical Canadian bank mutual fund charges 2.0 to 2.5% MER on comparable assets. That is a 10x fee difference. Over 30 years, on a $7,500 annual contribution, the MER difference alone costs approximately $180,000 in foregone compounding. Nobody told you that either. Let me walk you through what the right TFSA actually looks like year by year. Not as abstract numbers, as something you can feel. You are 25. You open Wealth Simple. It takes about 20 minutes. You open a TFSA inside the account. You set up a recurring $625 monthly purchase of XEQT. That is $7,500 per year, your full annual room. You set it to automatic. You close the app. Year 1, you have contributed $7,500. The market does whatever the market does. Your balance is somewhere between $6,800 and $8,500, depending on timing. You check it once and feel nothing in particular. That feeling is correct. Year 1 is not about the number. It is about whether the automation is running. If it is running, you have succeeded at year 1. Year 5. You have contributed $37,500. Your balance? Approximately $47,500. The account is earning roughly $3,200 per year in growth. That is more than many Canadians have in total savings.
but you probably have not felt it emotionally yet. The number is real, but it does not feel large. That is fine. You are at the early part of the compounding curve. The interesting part comes later. Year 10. You have contributed $75,000. Your balance? Approximately $117,000. Something shifts here. The annual growth on your balance, just the market return, not your contributions, is approximately $9,400. That is more than the annual room going in. The account has crossed the line where it is growing faster on its own than you are adding to it. This is the flip point. Most people never experience this because they stop contributing, or they are in GICs where the curve never bends. Year 15. You have contributed $112,500. Balance? Approximately $220,000. You are 40. The annual growth is approximately $17,600. That is more than double your annual contribution. You are in the steep part of the compounding curve. The snowball is not just rolling, it is pulling away. Year 20. You have contributed $150,000. Balance? Approximately $373,000. You are 45. Annual growth is approximately $29,800, nearly 4 times your annual contribution. The account is doing the heavy lifting now. Your job is just to not interrupt it. Year 25. You have contributed $187,500. Balance? Approximately $597,000. You are 50. Annual growth is approximately $47,800, more than 6 times your annual contribution. This is what compounding looks like when it has been running for 25 years without interruption. Year 30, you have contributed $225,000. Balance? Approximately $925,000. You are 55. The account earned roughly $74,000 this year in growth alone. That is 10 years of annual contributions from an account you set up at 25 with 20 minutes of work and have not actively managed since.
Every dollar withdrawn in retirement, completely tax-free. No income attribution, no capital gains calculation, no CRA involvement. Just yours. Now run the same math with a 2% savings account. Year 10, $82,000. Year 20, $183,000. Year 30, $305,000. The gap at year 30 is $620,000. Not because you earned less, not because you contributed less, because of what was inside the container. And here is the number that should make you physically uncomfortable. The difference between $305,000 and $925,000 in a TFSA at age 55 in terms of sustainable withdrawal is the difference between drawing $12,200 per year tax-free and drawing $37,000 per year tax-free. That is a $24,800 annual gap every year of your retirement for the rest of your life. That is the real cost of a savings account inside a TFSA, not a number on a chart.
Not a number on a chart. A retirement lifestyle.
Look at your TFSA balance right now. Whatever that number is, it could be $153,000 larger. The only question is whether you fix it today or keep calling it responsible.
I want to speak directly to 3 different people who are watching this video right now, because the action is different depending on where you are. If you are under 30 and you do not have a TFSA, you are not behind. You are early. The contribution room has been accumulating since you turned 18. If you turned 18 in 2018, you have $40,000 in accumulated room sitting unused right now. You can deposit that tomorrow and invest it immediately. Every year of compounding starts the day you fund the account. Not the day you think about it, not the day you research it, the day you fund it.
open the account this week. If you are between 30 and 50 and you have a TFSA sitting in savings or GICs, I want to be precise about what this costs you. Every year you hold $50,000 in a 2% GIC instead of an 8% ETF costs you approximately $3,000 in foregone growth. That is $250 a month you are leaving on the table, not from spending it, from storage choice. On $100,000, that annual gap is $6,000. The number compounds. The longer you wait, the more expensive the wait becomes. If you are over 50 and you are looking at a TFSA that should be significantly larger, I want to be direct with you. You cannot reverse the compounding years you lost. That math does not run backwards. But you can stop the leak today. And the compounding on what you have left over the next 15 to 20 years is still substantial. Person C from earlier, $67,000 at 45, switching to market returns today with continued contributions ends at over $500,000 by age 65. That is not the number she would have had, but it is dramatically better than staying in GICs. The fix is the same for all three. The urgency is just different. One more thing. I hear people say they cannot afford to lose money right now. I want to reframe that. A TFSA savings account at 2% with inflation at 3% produces a real return of negative 1% every year, guaranteed. You are losing purchasing power, guaranteed, in exchange for the comfort of a number that never goes down on the statement. A market ETF fluctuates, sometimes down 10%, sometimes down 30% in a crash year. But over 20 or 30 years, the directional trend is up, and at a rate that compounds meaningfully above inflation. You are not choosing between risk and safety. You are choosing between visible risk that recovers and invisible risk that does not. The savings account feels safe because the number never drops, but in purchasing power terms, it is losing ground every single year. That loss just does not show up on your statement. Mistake 1. Confusing the TFSA label with the investment inside it. This is the foundational error, and it trips up more Canadians than any other single mistake on this list. The TFSA is an account type. It is a legal designation that grants tax-free status to whatever grows inside it. It is not an investment. A TFSA savings account, a TFSA GIC, a TFSA mutual fund, and a TFSA invested in XEQT are all technically TFSAs. They produce completely different outcomes over 20 years. Before you do anything else, open your account and look at what you actually hold. If you see the word savings or GIC anywhere, you have identified the problem. The fix is in the next section. Mistake 2. Holding GICs in your TFSA during peak compounding years. This is the one I want you to flag before we go through the rest of the list. Mistake 2 is the expensive one. A GIC inside a TFSA at age 30 feels responsible. It earns more than savings. It is guaranteed. Nothing on the statement ever frightens you. But your TFSA at age 30 has a 35-year runway to retirement. Putting a locked 3-year GIC into a 35-year container is structurally wrong. The GIC matures, you roll it over, you lock it again. 3 years at a time for 35 years. While the market compounds at rates the GIC cannot match, and the gap between what you have and what you could have widens every rolling cycle. GICs belong in accounts with short time horizons and genuine capital protection needs. Your TFSA at 30 is not that account. The cost of this mistake on a 35-year TFSA, based on the numbers I ran earlier, is over $600,000. That is one mistake. The most expensive financial mistake the average Canadian makes that nobody talks about, because the statement always shows a number going up.
Mistake 3. Over-contributing and triggering the 1% monthly penalty. The CRA charges 1% per month on any amount you hold above your TFSA contribution limit.
On a $5,000 overcontribution, which can happen more easily than you think, that is $600 per year in pure penalty with no return attached to it. The most common way this happens: you withdraw $10,000 from your TFSA in November and recontribute it in December of the same calendar year. You have just overcontributed by $10,000 for at least 1 month. The rule is clear but counterintuitive. Withdrawals create new contribution room, but only in the following calendar year, not immediately, not in the same year. Before any TFSA contribution, log into CRA My Account and confirm your available room. Takes 2 minutes, costs nothing.
The penalty for skipping this step can run for months before CRA sends a notice, and you owe every month's penalty regardless of when you discover the error. Mistake 4. Holding investments in a non-registered account when TFSA room is available. If you have money invested in a regular brokerage account, not a TFSA, not an RRSP, and that account is generating dividends, capital gains, or interest, you are paying tax on returns you could be sheltering for free. Canadian dividend income in a non-registered account gets dividend tax credit treatment, but still carries a tax cost. Capital gains at 50% inclusion rate add to your taxable income. Interest income is taxed as regular income at your marginal rate. All of this is avoidable for free inside a TFSA.
The priority order is always TFSA room first, RRSP second, non-registered last. If you have money in a non-registered account and unused TFSA room, you have identified a tax leak. Moving those assets in kind to your TFSA does not require selling. It requires a transfer. Your investment platform can walk you through it.
Mistake 5. Using the TFSA as an emergency fund with regular withdrawals and recontribute. The TFSA is not a high-interest savings account with a better name. Every time you withdraw and recontribute, even following the calendar year rule correctly, you are interrupting compounding. A $10,000 withdrawal at age 32 that you put back at 33 costs you 1 year of 8% growth on that $10,000. That is $800 in year 1. But that $800 would have compounded at 8% for the following 33 years to age 65. The real cost of 1 year's interruption, depending on when in the compounding curve it happens, can be $5,000 to $15,000 in foregone terminal wealth.
Your emergency fund belongs in a separate high-interest savings account, outside the TFSA. 3 to 6 months of expenses, liquid, untouched. The TFSA is your long-duration compounding vehicle. Keep it running without interruption. If you are watching this and you have already made one of these mistakes, you are already ahead, because you know it now, and the correction costs you nothing except the time to make it. 3 moves. This is the complete system. You can execute all 3 in 1 afternoon. Move 1. Know your room. Log into CRA My Account at canada.ca. Navigate to TFSA section. Your available contribution room is displayed. This is the amount you can deposit right now without penalty. Write it down. If you have never contributed, depending on your age, your room is between $40,000 and $109,000. That is not a number to think about next month. That is money you can move today. Move 2. Open the right platform. If you do not already have a Wealthsimple or Questrade account, open one now. Both are free to open. Both are commission-free for ETF purchases, meaning you pay 0 transaction fees to buy XEQT or VEQT. Wealthsimple has a slightly simpler interface. Questrade has more functionality if you want it. Both are appropriate. Inside the platform, open a TFSA. Deposit your available room, or start with whatever you have available right now, even if that is $500. Then set up a recurring monthly purchase of XEQT or VEQT for whatever amount you can sustain. XEQT, iShares Core Equity ETF Portfolio, holds approximately 9,000 global stocks. Management expense ratio, 0.20% per year. Globally diversified, automatically rebalanced.
appropriate for a time horizon of 10 years or longer. VEQT, Vanguard All Equity ETF Portfolio, holds over 13,000 global securities. MER, 0.24% per year. Nearly identical to XEQT in composition and return profile, also appropriate. Pick one and commit. The difference between the two over 30 years is smaller than the difference between either one and a GIC over 1 year. Set the recurring purchase to automatic. Pick the first of the month. Set it and stop logging in. The automation is the discipline. You are removing the monthly decision entirely. The contribution goes in, the purchase executes, the compounding runs. Your job is to not interrupt it.
Move 3. If you already have a TFSA at your bank in savings or GICs, you have 2 exit paths. Path A, in-kind transfer. Contact Wealthsimple or Questrade and initiate a TFSA transfer from your bank. An in-kind transfer moves the assets without triggering a deemed disposition, meaning if you hold GICs, they transfer to the new platform and run to maturity there. Your bank will likely charge a transfer-out fee between $50 and $150. Pay it. The compounding difference over 20 years makes that fee irrelevant.
Path B, wait for maturity and redirect. If your GICs are close to maturity, within 6 to 12 months, let them run to term. When they mature, withdraw the funds and recontribute to your new TFSA at Wealthsimple or Questrade in the following calendar year, if you're at your limit. This path costs no transfer fee, but takes longer. Either path is correct. Quebec residents. Your TFSA functions identically to every other province. There are no additional Quebec-specific TFSA restrictions. The contribution room, tax treatment, investment options, and withdrawal rules are exactly the same. Open on the same platforms, invest the same way.
One final number before I close. If you are 30 years old today and you redirect $625 per month, $7,500 per year, into a TFSA invested in XEQT, and you continue until 65, your balance at 65 at 8% average annual return will be approximately $1.45 million, completely tax-free, every dollar of it. That is not a promise, returns are not guaranteed, but it is the math, and the math is more persuasive than anything I can say. I want to go back to that kitchen table one more time. My dad fixed his TFSA. He transferred the GIC assets when they matured, he opened Wealthsimple, he set up a recurring XEQT purchase. It took him about 2 hours across one weekend. He has not touched it since. He still asks sometimes why no one told him sooner. I still do not have a clean answer for that. The information was always available. The math was never hidden. But the conversation that would have changed his outcome was not in anyone's financial interest to initiate, except his. That conversation just happened. The number is $400,000. The fix is 1 afternoon of setup. If this changed how you think about your TFSA, share this video with someone who has theirs sitting in a savings account at their bank. They need to see this before another year of compounding passes. Next week, we are going to look at what a $70,000 salary actually pays you after federal tax, Ontario provincial tax, CPP, and EI. The number on your offer letter is not the number that hits your account. And the gap between those two numbers is where most Canadians get the math completely wrong. I will see you there.